I was right that the Deathwatch continue on as normal into 11th edition. The people who cried,
"We're dead! We're dead! We're survived, but we're dead!" Stop!
Were at best premature. However, while the Deathwatch continue with their index, it is concerning how much Games Workshop has skipped for the Deathwatch. There is no update to any main part of the index. It's a copy and paste for the most part. They did copy the Black Spear Task Force only rule for the Space Marines generally, the one that says Deathwatch armies cannot use units from any of the chapters, and aside from Kill Team Cassius, you can't use Imperial Agents Deathwatch in a Deathwatch army. You don't get the +1 to wound Oath of Moment when you use Deathwatch. That also seems to apply even if you only included Imperial Agents Deathwatch. Like you have a generic Space Marine army and you want to add in Kill Team Cassius. They have Deathwatch as a unit keyword, so they stop you having better Oath of Moment, even though that is a unit that cannot use Oath of Moment. This rule still makes no distinction between keywords and faction keywords. So the presence of a unit that can't even use Oath of Moment means the rest of your army cannot use Oath of Moment as effectively. Ah, well, there's always the future to fix some of these, probably around the Space Marine Codex. And I am assuming that the Imperial Agents Deathwatch still have Deathwatch as a keyword, and that is not removed for some reason. We'll find out on Thursday, because that is when the other Imperial faction packs are released for 11th edition. I will mainly be looking at the Adeptus Astartes. There's no big rules update. That will come with the Space Marine Codex and the many rules fixes and balance patches that are going to happen across the edition. When the Space Marine Codex is released, at that point Games Workshop may decide once again that the Deathwatch range should be cut back to Imperial Agents, which they clearly do not respect as a faction, as there are no new detachments coming for Imperial Agents in 11th edition, at least not at the start, maybe never. Or when the Space Marine Codex comes out, nothing happens to the Deathwatch. The Deathwatch faction pack continues, as does the Black Spear Task Force, and all our units in this document remain Adeptus Astartes, and we are valid. It is okay, remain calm, kill the alien, and remain calm. Right, what has changed for the Deathwatch between 10th edition and 11th edition? Barely anything. Even though we were an index, and anything could be just updated here, and it's fine and easy, the grenades keyword was not swapped for explosives. There's no real need, as the grenade keyword works in 11th edition, but it was an option, and Games Workshop has skipped it. Armor of Contempt in the Black Spear Task Force has been updated to match the balance patch of 10th edition, that it only lasts until the enemy attacking has finished their attacks, instead of the stratagem lasting until the end of the phase. That is how people were doing it, that is how the balance patch said you do it, that is not how it used to be written in 10th edition. Now it matches the balance patch, which should be the one way that everyone plays the rules. There's not going to be separate rules for different ways to play. Well, sometimes that might happen. We'll get onto that later. The Deathwatch Terminator Teleport Homer is now you land 8 inches away from the enemy instead of 9 inches. That matches the 11th edition Rapid Ingress rule. But we have some actual changes. The Watchmaster ability that was previously called Watchmaster, that meant once per battle round, you could reduce the cost of a stratagem by 1 command point. That was called Watchmaster, which meant you could use it at the same time as the Space Marine Captain's Rites of Battle. It does the same thing, but it's got a different name. That is now being changed, and the Watchmaster's ability is called Rites of Battle. So you can no longer use it in combination with a regular Space Marine Captain, because this named ability is used once per battle round. 1 unit from your army with this ability can use it. The Corvus Black Star has been updated for 11th edition. We were wondering what's happening with aircraft and how you could drop bombs if you never move. Because for rules purposes in 11th edition, aircraft do not move. They arrive from the board edge, they can shoot stuff, and then at the end of your opponent's player turn they leave. But the Corvus Black Star is not an aircraft, so don't worry about it. It has fly, but not aircraft. Think of it as locked permanently in hover mode. And rather than a movement of 20 plus, it has a movement of 14 inches. As it has fly, this still prevents it being used in the armoured spear tip. That was fun while it lasted. As with many vehicles, the Corvus Blackstar gets the frame keyword, even though it has a base, which means you measure from the wingtips for line of sight, and if your opponent's models are within 5 inches vertically under the wings and within 2 inches horizontal of the wings, they are in engagement range of your Corvus Blackstar. It's standard fly, you can slap it even though it's going to be 50 feet up. You can fight it in close combat. You don't need to be a flying unit to fight a flying unit. This is considered to be as high up off the ground as any Space Marine with a jump pack, for rules purposes. Deathwatch still have the Kill Team special rule, which changes how toughness is used. If your unit has mixed toughness and it's a kill team, you use the most common toughness, not the highest. There's no real change to the wording, and that means there's a problem if you have a character join. Only sometimes, but can be a problem. Because you use the most common toughness, there's no clarity on if the character is factored into which one is the most common toughness. So if you have a Talon Strike kill team with 5 heavy intercessors at toughness 6, 5 intercessors with jump packs at toughness 4, and also a captain, is the unit toughness 4 or toughness 6? Are you taking the most common, and if there's a tie, use the highest, so that'd be toughness 6, but not counting the captain, because he's not part of a bodyguard? Or do you count the captain as well, and then there's 6 models with toughness 4, 5 models with toughness 6, so the unit is toughness 4? Obviously, as this is a rule in like a supplement or index, it overrules the core rules. I just think it'd be strange to think that it overrules the core rule to say you pick the highest toughness, but it wouldn't overrule the core rules that refer to attached units and deciding toughness. I would think it overrules both. And so in the example, the unit would be toughness 4. There are 6 models at toughness 4, there are 5 models at toughness 6, it's a unit that has kill team. If you never take the Talon Strike kill team, this isn't really an issue. With the Space Marine changes, and we are Adeptus Astartes in the Deathwatch, a few changes to the keywords of certain units. All kinds of lieutenants, apothecaries, and ancients are support. They no longer have the leader keyword. We are told that means they cannot go alone. The army construction stuff that tells you about setting up units with support and leaders, that hasn't been released yet, and that will not be in the paperback rulebook. Army construction will be in some other PDF or the app only. But support characters cannot go alone. The lieutenant with combi weapon is not a support character, he's a lone operative and a leader. Because lieutenants and apothecaries are now support, you can no longer follow the 10th edition rule about apothecaries being able to join a unit even if there is a lieutenant there. That is gone. But you can now double up with characters you weren't previously able to. Like an apothecary can join a librarian in a squad. That should be okay. That should work. I am disappointed that there's a lot of copy and paste here. Like for the Adeptus Astartes legends and such, all the legends remain, and the rule about the Horus Heresy units has been copied and pasted from early 10th edition, so it still excludes Codex Emperor's children from taking Horus Heresy units. This is really silly, but the reason the rule is like this is because there were only Codex World Eaters, Codex Death Guard, and Codex Thousand Suns when this rule was written, and Games Workshop has not updated it to remember that the Emperor's children exist. It's so annoying. All kinds of land speeder are still present in Legends, with the exception of the basic land speeder, which has the updated version from the Armageddon starter set. Just because there are some units that have this updated datasheet from the Armageddon starter set does not mean it happens to all of them. Don't take this as Orc boys are now trapped as units of 10 with no power claws or rocket launcher options. The Space Marines have had some units added to their faction pack, but not the new Vanguard veterans with jump packs. You use the existing rules for Vanguard veterans. The rules shown off are for the Armageddon starter set so that someone could, sort of, play 40k without a codex, just using the models in the box. But the shown off datasheets are for the launch box, they are not replacing the codex units. Do not panic if you are an Orc player. From comments from Warhammer's official Facebook page, the Combat Patrol Companion, which is available to pre-order, is not needed to play Combat Patrol. If you did want to pre-order it, I have links in the description where you can get it cheaper than going through Games Workshop, but I wouldn't pre-order it separately. For all of our units, there's still no points known for 11th edition. That will come out Friday at the earliest. And then we'll see which different weapons have a bonus points, like for specific weapons. Maybe the Decimus kill team, you can have whatever weapons you like, but if you want a heavy thunder hammer instead of a shield, it costs 5 extra points. I think it'll be fine. But maybe the veteran kill team, the thunder hammers will cost more points once again. Maybe a Xenophase blade as well. That's a minor change. Maybe just the heavy thunder hammers. Yeah. So then the points cost of the unit overall may go down, or it stays as it is, and if you take the heavy thunder hammers, it costs even more points. The idea of having a cheaper Deathwatch veteran squad is appealing. Only frag cannons and storm shields. Yeah, that can work. That can work. Right, our detachments. Black Spear Task Force, it's still here. It is 3 detachment points, which means that no combining it with any other detachments. You have 3 detachment points available for games of 2,000 points or bigger. If you wanted the Librarius Conclave, it does not combine with the Black Spear Task Force. Also, because it's 3 detachment points, the Black Spear Task Force cannot officially be taken at less than 2,000 points. What you do in the privacy of your own home is none of Games Workshop's business, of course. But other detachments exist, and as Adeptus Astartes, we can have any of the basic Space Marine ones. Combine them as you wish. The Bastion Task Force is good. The Vanguard Spearhead is good. And as they're 2 detachment points, you can combine them with a 1 detachment point detachment. There are some changes to the detachments. In general, any kind of reactive move that happened when enemies moved within 9 inches is now enemies moving within 8 inches. This means they can deep strike 8 and a bit away, which is the standard deep strike, and that will not trigger reactive moves. Ingress move, not deep strike. Ingress move, which you do from deep strike. The biggest changes are to the Vanguard Spearhead and Shadowmark Talon, which is the Raven Guard only version of Vanguard Spearhead. The Shadow Master's detachment rule has dropped the and we're -1 to be hit if we're attacked over 12 inches. It just gives the benefit of cover now. You are not hidden, unless you're within actual cover, but you could stand out in the open, and enemies would be -1 ballistic skill to attack you if they fired over 12 inches. As it was written, it would have effectively been like -2 to hit, -1 ballistic skill, and then -1 to the dice roll. That would have been a bit too punchy. Another important change in the Vanguard Spearhead, the Shadow War Veteran Enhancement, and in the Shadowmark Talon, the Coronial Susurrant thing. That's now once per turn to increase the cost of a stratagem that's played, rather than applying to all stratagems used within 12 inches. It increased the costs to use the stratagem by 1 command point. I would still assume that if the enemy has 1 command point available and you change their 1 command point stratagem into a 2 command point stratagem, that they would refund the 1 command point, rather than they lose a command point and gain nothing. But we'll have to see in an 11th edition FAQ. The third change is the Vanguard Spearhead stratagem, the Calculated Feint, now only targets 1 infantry unit within 12 inches of the enemy unit when it declares a charge. Then you make a normal move, usually away from them. That's step 11.02.1, before the enemy rolls the charge dice to determine which units are eligible to be charged. Of the 3 new 1 detachment point detachments that we have in full, only the Librarius Conclave interests me. Adeptus Astartes Psyche units are the ones that can get the benefit of this. The most obvious way is to put a Librarian in the squad, a basic Librarian, a Terminator Librarian, or, because attached units share keywords, adding a Psychic Inquisitor would also make your unit a Psyche unit, and also, we're playing Space Marines, so it has the Adeptus Astartes keyword. Adeptus Astartes Psyker. That can work. Cheap way to get it. There are no bonus stratagems that you might forget, it's enhancements only. I like the start of the battle round, get a bonus for all of your Psyche units, bonus movement, reroll hit and wound rolls of 1, very nice on a Fortis kill team. Pyromancy Discipline, have even more AP on a Fortis kill team. Telekinesis to have a bit of a shield, ranged attacks that target your unit are -1 strength. And if you pick telepathy, you can ignore modifiers to your ballistic skill, weapon skill, or hit rolls. Then the enhancements each apply to one of the disciplines. They have an on all the time ability, and then if that particular discipline is active, you get a bonus. Fusillade is wonderful if you have a librarian with Stern Guard. Anti-monster, anti-vehicle goes very well with their devastating wounds. If the pyromancy discipline is active, then the squad also has sustained hits, and the basic part, if they're within 12 inches, get another point of armor penetration when shooting. That applies, of course, to all of your units that are Adeptus Astartes and Psyker. Something I find that the Deathwatch will really like is celerity. You can advance and charge. And if Biomancy was active, you get +2 movement. That's the basic part of the detachment. And you're able to fall back and still charge. That will give you fight first. Again. If you are in the Librarius Conclave, of course, you won't have the Black Spear Task Force detachment. You can still have a special teleport away and come back ability, Temporal Corridor. At the end of your opponent's fight phase, you can put this unit into Strategic Reserve. If the Telekinesis discipline is active, the unit has Deep Strike. So as long as that is available for you in your turn, you can Deep Strike anywhere on the table. Or Rapid Ingress anywhere on the table. More than 8 inches and a bit away from the enemy. And Obfuscation, perfectly fine enhancement. Of course, you can't put these enhancements on Inquisitors because they are not, as models, Adeptus Astartes Psykers. It's a difference between Adeptus Astartes Psyker units and Adeptus Astartes Psyker models. Inquisitors can't have these enhancements. But Obfuscation, the enemy cannot target your unit with snapshots, which means they cannot attack you with Overwatch and several other abilities. And yeah, if telepathy was active, then -3 to your detection range, which only applies to units that are hidden, so if you shoot, you are not hidden. This would do nothing. The 2 other detachments do a lot more with this whole hidden ability, which might not come up too much in-game. With subversion assets, Phobos and Scout Squad units, in our case as Deathwatch, this would be Phobos units such as the Spectre's Kill Team. If they're within 12 inches, enemy units have +3 to detection range, so you can detect them up to 18 inches away, even though they're hidden. Death in the Dark is an upgrade for a Phobos unit. If you attack an enemy that's hidden, you get +1 to hit. If you were hidden when you did that, strike from the shadows so you do not stop being hidden. Or there's Adaptive Operations. Doing an action does not prevent your unit being eligible to shoot. Probably a small Phobos unit. Or it could be a Spectre's Kill Team, and that action does not prevent your unit being eligible to shoot. That could be useful. If you were someone who wanted to take lots of big kill teams, your Spectre's Kill Team can still complete any actions you need to do. What we don't know about these detachments is which force disposition they give you. So we don't know how picking the Subversion Assets detachment will help to determine your primary mission. That's future information Games Workshop needs to reveal. The Fulgris Task Force has a little bit of a bonus for your Storm Speeders and the Land Speeder specifically. Not any kind of speeder. Legend units do not get affected by this, unfortunately. But in your first turn, you can make an ingress move, so you can Deep Strike with any of these that were in reserve, and that have Deep Strike, which I think is all of them. There's an upgrade to ignore cover, there's an upgrade to reroll damage rolls and the number of shots. If you had a Land Speeder with a Heavy Flamer and a Multi-Melter, that could be okay. Don't know how many points it is. That's the problem. A lack of information. Also a lack of information on what matched play means. Space Marine Faction Pack. Legal for matched play. Is matched play tournaments only? Is matched play any way to play where you have equal points? Either way, the Legend units are included in this faction pack and so are explicitly legal for matched play. Do not discount Legend units ever again. Legends are about to be mainstream. This is wonderful news. Have a great day of 40K.